Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I am back with another video. Today we are going to be comparing and contrasting Zig Clean Color Markers and the Karin Brushmarker Pros. I am using two different sets from the Rabbit Hole Designs. One of them is called Advice from a Pumpkin and the other one is called Hold My Flowers. The Advice of a Pumpkin I actually bought last year and didn't even have a chance to use it, and it's such a pretty set. So I decided I would use it this year, and it's actually on sale right now over at the Rabbit Hole Designs for like $11. So we're going to get right into the comparison first, and then we will make the cards and have story time. So first things first, I decided I should probably zoom in here so you could see. On the left is the Karin, on the right is the Zigs, but don't worry, I'll confuse you before the end is over because then I just started playing with them myself. So first things that I noticed right out the gate in using them is that the Karin has a brush nib, like a Copic or an alcohol marker. The Zigs actually have bristles like a paintbrush. So you can see when you go down to put a line of color, it's much more solid on the Karin side versus the Zig side. It's harder to get a straight line with those because it is more of a paintbrush. The other thing that I wanted to check was I had seen with several people who were using the Karin markers that they were able to do like some tip to tip to get a gradient. And so first I tried it with the red and I thought, well, maybe they were too close to each other. So then I switched over to the purple and I was able to get that to work a little bit better. Basically, I just scribbled my pink marker right on top of my purple marker. And as you can see, the longer the ink flows, the more it goes back to its true color. I tried the same thing with these Zig markers, and at first I really couldn't get it to work, but I was taking the light colored marker to the dark colored marker like I did with the Karins, and it just wasn't really working for me. So then I flipped it and I took the darker colored marker and put it to the lighter colored marker, and then I could get it to work. So basically I just colored the tip of the lighter colored marker with the darker colored Zig, and then I could get a pretty good gradient. And again, I just wanted to show you that this isn't going to mess up your markers in any way. They will clean up as the ink just flows through. It will go back to its originally intended color. Here I just have a little acrylic block. Another way that you could do this for both of these is to scribble down your darker color, then pick up the ink with your lighter color, and then that would also give you a gradient. So if you're using these for hand lettering, I would for sure recommend the Karins versus the Zigs. I just think they're easier to use and they have more control. So here we're going to look at watering them down. One of my biggest complaints with the Zig color markers is that the reds really water out to a pink. And here you can see the Zigs are on the left, the Karins on the right for this particular example, and the Karins are just a more true red color. The Zigs it's still a pretty color, it's just not a true red. It really waters down to pink. And then doing it with the blues as well, you can see that the color just stays truer with the Karin markers. But as far as using them goes, this I was putting them into like picking up the pigment and then putting it into wet, so like a wet on wet technique. And they both worked fairly the same. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do a wet on wet, but with the marker directly to the paper instead of picking it up off the block. And they really did perform almost identical. It really just depends on what your preferred color palette is. They're both very bright because it's the set that I have. So for the Karin markers, I actually have two sets of the Brushmarker Pros. I have a nude set, like a skin tone set, and then I have a brights set. And there are so many other ones that you could get. For the Zigs, I have the 36 set, and then I have supplemented a couple of markers because you can buy them individually that I was looking for something a little different than what was in the set. So really performance wise, they're almost identical. They both love water. They water out really nicely. They move really nicely. I know a lot of people have said in the past that for Zig Clean color markers, they can only get it to move on Bristol. I have not, I'm not using Bristol. I'm using the Canson Monteval watercolor paper, and I have no issue with them moving. They don't grab. I'm happy with the way that they move. So I wanted to show you for the card. I'm not going to show you all of the stamping and masking that I did because it is a little bit time consuming since I'm doing it in white heat embossing. But basically, to get the scenes that I'm creating, I'm combining a pumpkin from the one set with a flower holder from another set to build my little scenes, as well as like some leaves and some acorns since it's more of like a fall themed card. And then I'm masking in between. Something to note with the masking and the heat embossing. If you're using masking paper that is extra sticky to mask your images, you may find that it is sticking, your embossing powder is sticking to the masking like leftovers, the residue that's left over. And so this does sometimes involve a little bit more cleanup with your paintbrush, or there are sometimes I'll use like a pokey tool if I'm just trying to get one or two small little like granules of embossing powder. But I did have to go in and clean these up. So this part does take a little bit longer than more traditional heat embossing, just because embossing powder is meant to stick or adhere to things that are sticky, and then it holds it until you can heat set it. So yeah, just something to note. So for the first part of the coloring, I am going to show you them side by side. And then eventually I will switch over and I will do the Karin one. I'll finish that piece first and then the Zig one second. I'm doing the same technique for both of these, which is how I typically do my watercoloring for my cards. I am going in and putting down the pigment where I want it to be the darkest, and then I'm going to bring in clean water. I will start the clean water where I want it to be the lightest, and then I will bring the water to the pigment. This works the best for me to have the most control so that I don't have just one tone of color all over the entire image. If you start where you've laid down the color, you're going to just move that pigment in one tone across the entirety of that image or that section that you're coloring. If you put down the clean water and then bring the water to the pigment, you allow the pigment to kind of bloom out into the water. That creates several different tones. With both of these, I was able to go in and put down more pigment while my paper was wet. Now, I will tell you, my paper is not saturated. The water is not bubbled up. It's just damp. And so if you have a lot of moisture, I know, especially with the Zig Clean color markers, you're not going to get any pigment to come out of your marker because it's too busy absorbing your clean water. So that's just something to note. But like I said, I'll be doing the same technique for both of these, and then eventually I will speed it up. Because watercolor takes a long time and I'm doing 2 cards. So I have to kind of, play around a little bit with the speed settings just to make sure that I'm able to show you all of the things. So yeah, that's what we're doing here. If you already have the Zigs, you probably don't need the Karins. If you already have the Karins, you probably don't need the Zigs. If you like the color palette of the Karins better, I probably won't buy any more sets. I'm pretty content with my 2, with my skin tones and with the brights. I'm able to use, to create what I need with both of those things, whether it's people or flowers or, backgrounds. I'm pretty happy with the way both of those are. But you definitely don't need both of these products. So if you have one already, then you probably don't need the other one. If you don't have either and you're looking to see what you should purchase, I like them both and I will continue to use them both. But I do think that because of the color palette, a smidge more on the Karin side. And that's just because of the colors that were available in the packs that I purchased. So as far as story time, my entire week, today is Friday, my entire week, I have just been, sacrificing my work day is pretty much what's going on. So every single morning this week, I've had something going on where I was doing for some other member of my family. And ain't that just a mom life? For real, y'all. So I haven't been able to get done as much as I would like. But by far and away, the most frustrating of days was yesterday. Why? Because it was school supply day, people. That's why. Let's talk about school supplies, okay? We talked about this before, how you could go on to like Walmart and they would give you a list, which I did utilize. So in one browser window, I had up the school supply list from the school website. And in the other, which is my phone, I had the app open with the school supply list. Now, I will say, which I did not know when I talked to you in my video before, that Walmart gives you the option to shop similar items, so that you can click on that, and then so you don't have to pick the most expensive one, you can pick a similar item. With that said, there were some things that I spent a little bit of money on. Not a lot, but when they tried to put, I think it's Pen and Gear. Now, I don't know anything about the Pen and Gear brand. I think Walmart makes it, but I don't know anything about that brand. But I do know that when you try to put Pen and Gear crayons in my cart, I'm a hard no. You know why? Because I grew up with rose art. That's why. And that was like trying to color a picture with your mama's candle. Rose art crayons were not great. So I did splurge on the Crayolas for my kiddo so that he, I don't know, can color with actual pigment and not just wax. So those things I'm aware of. I did a little shopping around for that. But on the supply list, there's very specific, and if you are a teacher, you know a teacher, they obviously have a game plan for their classroom. And you've heard, especially in the media lately, that there's a gigantic teacher shortage. There is not a shortage of teachers. There's plenty of teachers that are capable of teaching out there in the world. There is a shortage of proper compensation and appreciation for teachers. That's what there's a shortage of. So you can hardly blame them for not wanting to do this. So when these teachers give me a list, I try very, very hard to match whatever the list is. Sometimes it can get challenging. So we have specific colored folders that we need, in specific styles. So then we have specific notebooks and specific colors. So it's all just all of us out there trying to just find whatever the thing is on the list. And there were some new things on the list. This is the first year he needed colored pencils, which hey, art class, I'm here for. I don't know what you need them for, but I want you to have your art supplies. And then there's other things like a soft, pale lunchbox to keep his supplies in. Fortunately, we had that here at the house, so I didn't need to purchase that. He needed a dictionary, and he received one in third grade, which we still had in the house. So again, I didn't need to purchase that. So there was a couple of things that he had that I didn't have to buy, which is great. But so I go through, I make sure I have everything on the list. And if you know anything about ordering online, the bane of your existence, of your shopping experience when just ordering online and having it delivered to your house is the substitutions. The substitutions, because I cannot substitute this green folder for a black folder. No, sir, I cannot. I need a green folder. And I cannot substitute the college rule for the wide rule because it says they need wide rule. Probably because at this age, their handwriting is still trying to interpret a doctor's prescription. It's not great. So I get the thing. They send me, and they do send you an email. Hey, these are the substitutions. You can accept or decline. So I get the email. My phone had been dying that day because I had filmed a short or a reel. You guys probably saw it. I posted it on YouTube. Be interested to know your feedback on that. It had several dislikes, which I think is interesting. But I also know that they push them in the shorts feed, so it might just been people who weren't interested in my particular brand of art, which is okay. But anywho, back on point. So it sends me the email. These are the substitutions. 2 of the substitutions are for his school supplies, which I cannot substitute. So here I am This is just the Karin card. Now we're not doing them side by side anymore. I'm just going to knock out this card and then I'm going to knock out the next one. So this is all Karin's at this moment. So, they send me an email. I open the email and there's like 6 substitutions. 2 of them are school supplies. So I go in there to decline the substitutions for the school supplies. I did also decline the substitution for my coffee creamer because I get the Dunkin' Donuts creamer. It's a little bougie, but I love it. But they tried to substitute it with glazed donut creamer, and I don't like artificially flavored creamers. Like, I don't want none of that. But anywho, so I go in there and I'm like, it says you have until 5:30. I open the email at 5:20 because, like I said, my phone was on the charger, so I didn't see the email notification right away. So I open it at 5:20, I decline the glazed creamer, and then I go to decline the next one, and it's like, we're sorry, we're already working on your order. What? Wait, what? But you said I had till 5:30, but I don't have until 5:30. So I'm looking at the things, and so one of the things that was very specific, they had to have highlighters that had blue, yellow, pink, green, purple. Now, you and I both know that orange is a main highlighter color. Where am I supposed to get a pack that has purple supplemented for orange? It's impossible. I don't believe it exists. And so I'm going through all these highlighter packs trying to find purple, and I'm looking and looking and looking. Finally, I'm about to tell Nathan, like, listen, baby, first you put down the blue, and then you put the pink on top of it, and then that's your purple highlighter. That's what you have to work with. But I am able to finally find one that has a purple in it. But it's a gel highlighter. I don't know if that means that they'll be used any faster or any slower, but I don't care because at this point I've purchased what you've asked me to purchase. So I cannot decline any more substitutions. It won't let me because they're working on the order. So now I'm going to have this black folder and this blue notebook that I don't need. Because you see, I need a green folder and an orange notebook. So I'm like, okay, whatever. We'll have a spare folder and the notebook we'll use for like doing spelling words or practicing math facts. Like, we will use the notebook paper. It's not that big of a deal. Plus, it's back to school, so everything's like 50 cents. Price is important. Do you know why price is important? Because when I get the substitutions, I'm like, I'll just go on Amazon. I have an Amazon Prime membership. I'll just go on the Amazon and order what I need to order, and it'll be here before school. So I go on to the Amazon. I don't look for the notebook first. I look for the folder first because I figured this will be the easiest thing to find. And do you know what I found? Do you know? I found that Amazon is charging like $5 for a plastic folder. I'm not making this up. Honest to God. And you can't even choose the color. It's like $5 for a folder, and we select the color for you. Well, that's not going to work for me because I need a specific color. So the one I find that has a specific color that I can pick of this plastic green folder with 3 holes on the side is $8. Yes, $8 for this 50-cent plastic folder. And I was like, no, not happening. It's not happening. So Eric says to me when I'm telling him about this, are you sure it wasn't for a pack? Yes, I'm sure it wasn't for a pack. And do you know how I know it wasn't for a pack? Because the packs were $17. They were $17 for 4 plastic folders. No. So, long story long, I went to Meijer's for the first time. Yeah. So we were able to go in there. I was able to find the green folder with the 3 holes. It's clearly meant to be inserted in a binder, but it has 2 pockets and it's green with 3 holes. So I just accepted what the Lord gave me. And then the orange notebook, it was supposed to be a 1 subject college wide ruled, 1 subject wide ruled notebook, orange cover. Could not find it. Nope. Was not a thing at this Meijer. And so I found one that was an orange notebook that was a 3 subject, or Nathan found one that was a 1 subject that had an orange flame design on it. So we bought them both. Yes, we did. And I still didn't spend the $8 that it would have cost me for the 1 plastic folder that I would have purchased online. So when we went to his open house, which was very nice, we did not know who his teacher was, because normally you have to fill out Oh, here, back to the card. So if you ever get lost in your images, don't be afraid to just kind of lay over, like the acetate layover that comes with your stamps. Don't be afraid to like lay that over your stamp so you can see what needs to go where. That's what all I did there, because I felt like the inside of it was a little bit empty, and I was like, surely there should be something else that should be colored, but I didn't know what it was, and it turned out I was just like missing a flower in the background. I am later going to go in and paint in a little more orange to bring that pumpkin all the way up to level on both sides. But yeah, use the tools that you have available to you. You know what the stamp set looks like, so if you're having a hard time seeing it on your card, use the overlay. It's also super helpful to have the overlay like off to the side when you're doing the painting so you can see where all the things go. Another thing that you can do is color mapping before you get too far into coloring the whole image, and actually I'll have a video talking about that coming up soon. So when we go to the open house, no, his teacher. So we didn't know who his teacher was. And my mom actually was like, isn't it in his progress book? So I logged into his progress book, and sure enough, it was there. Because normally they hold the teacher assignment hostage until you fill out your student identification form. And this is like all their emergency contacts, allergies, medications, all that jazz. So usually the school will not assign them or will not tell you who the teacher is that they are assigned to until you fill out that form so that they have the most up-to-date information. And honestly, as a parent who gets so many emails and has so many things that I'm responsible for, I don't even blame them for holding it hostage, because they may very well never get their student identification form if they didn't. So I went to the progress book, and it was in fact there. So we were able to figure out who his teacher was. And then we loaded up, like, because you always have to, and the kids are using them, so it's not like it's a big deal. Like, the boys buy sandwich bags, the girls buy gallon bags. Then you have to bring in tissues, you have to bring in Clorox wipes. Like, these are things that they're going to use throughout the year that 100% should not be coming out of their teacher's budget. Like, I know teachers personally that spend so much of their own money on their classroom products just because the funds aren't there and the schools will not pay for them, that like I'm happy to contribute those things that will allow their year to go a little bit smoother. So we load those things up in a little baggie, load up Miss Caitlin, and then we go to his open house. For those of you who have asked in the past, myself, Eric, obviously Nathan, because it's his schooling, and Caitlin went, and then we met my ex-husband there, who is Nathan's dad. We do try to do these things together for Nathan, because we decided that we didn't want to be married anymore doesn't mean that we don't still share a child and have his best interests at heart. So we went in, after a lot of walking around, we're able to locate his classroom. And so last year, for the first year, they started switching classes for different subjects. So like he would go to the other third grade teacher for like social studies and or science. So this year they're doing the same thing, except it's a little bit more, they switch 2 classes this time. So he has like his homeroom class for reading and science. And then the other class is math and social studies. So that will be very interesting to see how he kind of navigates that and 2 different teaching styles. But obviously, as they get older and they're going into middle school and high school, they're going to have several different teachers for each subject. So I think it's good to start them early. So we went in and did that, met his teacher. She was very, very nice. Nathan did remind me, like after I introduced myself to her, that I forgot to tell her that he was colorblind. So I did let her know that. I had thought, I obviously told, when he first started school, I told his kindergarten teacher, hey, just so you know, he's colorblind. And then I kind of thought that information would follow him from year to year. Turns out, not true. So every year we end up having to tell his teacher that he's colorblind. He's red-green colorblind, which is the most common. And so, like, his self-portrait, I think from first grade, he's got on an Ohio State shirt in his self-portrait, which is colored green instead of red, because those are the colors that he has trouble seeing. And he can, like, if it's a very clear, like, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, he can tell the difference between those. But if you start adding in other colors, like a red violet or a blue violet, a yellow green, that's where things start to get a little hinky. He can't really discern the different hues. And so he gets more mixed up when there's more options. So just keeping it nice and simple for him really works much better. So we did let her know about that. And then Eric was like, well, you were up there a while. What were you doing? Talking, to the teacher. And I said, I was letting her know who all the players were, man. She's come in, like, this is her first game. So I was letting her know, like, that's his dad, that's his stepdad. We're all involved in his schooling. We're all involved in his grades. You could hear from any of us. You can reach out to any of us. Because I know that we are less common, just because it's an amicable situation where we work together for the benefit of our child. So, so it was very good. So now both cards are done and they're dry. I finished them both off super simply with just this cute little script thank you from the Hold My Flowers set. And then I did trim them down. I should be clear about that. And then I did add some shimmer, but something to just note, because you're adding moisture back into watercolors, you can pick up some pigment or reactivate that pigment. So especially if you're going to be going from like a purple flower to a yellow flower, you're probably going to want to scribble it off just to be sure that you're not carrying any color. I do try to work in colors that are similar to each other so that even if I pulled a little bit of pink into my orange, it wouldn't be a big deal. And then that's it. That is the entirety of both cards. I hope the comparison was super helpful to you. And I will catch you guys on the next video. Bye.